Hey, East Texas, I'm CBS19 Chief Meteorologist Brett Anthony. You know, last year we had supermoons at the end of the year. We had a great chance to see the northern lights in 2024. So what does 2025 hold for the nighttime skies here in East Texas? Of course, living out here in East Texas, we're away from a lot of light pollution of the bigger cities. So it gives us a pretty good opportunity to see some wonderful celestial events, whether it's supermoons, planetary alignments, bright stars, just awesome sights that I think we're going to see here in 2025. We saw Mars at opposition in January, meaning that Mars was directly on the other side of the Earth, and the sun, of course, illuminated Mars and gave it a brilliant red appearance. Now, as we work our way through the end of January and into February, we have 6 planets in alignment, but soon to be joined by a 7th. Now, I got to tell you something here. These are not to scale. These will not appear this big in the sky. But what I've done is put the planets in their relative position that they will be visible in the sky. Especially as we head toward the end of February, we have what we call a great or full planetary alignment setting up. So if you're looking in the west, southwest sky at night, you'd be able to see Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and Venus. Some of these will be visible to the naked eye. Others may need a telescope to be able to see those. For instance, Uranus is one of those planets that will need a telescope. Jupiter, also in the south to southwest sky. And then more directly, in our southern sky here in East Texas, we can see Mars. So again, 6 of these planets visible all the month of February, but then at the end of the month, we see them joined by a 7th planet. So what are the alignment types? What we call a mini alignment when any 3 planets are visible. Then we get into a small alignment when any 4 planets are visible. And then we get into a large alignment. Usually you'll have 2 of the larger planets and 3 smaller ones, and that's any 5 or 6. And then the full or great alignment occurs when you have 7 or more planets visible all at once in the nighttime sky. So that opportunity comes up again at the end of February. So fantastic. All right, you know, the moon gives us some great views sometimes here in East Texas. We had the full wolf moon in January. This year, we cannot use the phrase once in a blue moon because there are no blue moons in 2025. We are going to have to wait until another year for a blue moon. But let's talk about the full moons that are yet to come. We get to February 12th, and this full moon happens in the morning, so the night before or the night after, you're still talking about 99% illumination, and we have the snow moon. That's the next full moon up for us. Then we get to the worm moon. This one occurs during the late night overnight hours. So if you're up at about 2 a.m., you'll see the brilliance of the worm moon. And then the pink moon occurs. Oh, I want to talk about that worm moon on March 14th, by the way. That worm moon is also a blood moon. What does that mean? We're going to have a lunar eclipse occurring from 12:26 to 1:31 a.m. The Earth will block the sun's direct light, and so the sunlight is refracted, blue light is filtered out, and so what's left is red light. So the moon will not actually turn red, but it will have the appearance, because of the loss of the blue light, that it looks like it's a bit red, and so it gets its name, the blood moon. Again, that's the worm moon, but it will also be a blood moon on March 14th. Now let's go to Saturday, April 12th in the evening. 7:22 in the evening, but let's say an hour after that, after the sun is set, dusk is gone, we've got the pink moon. Again, not pink, but it comes because the flowers that bloom in spring are often pink, and so the name, the pink moon, really is associated with the color of a flower that is blooming about the time that we see this full moon. Saturday, April 12th, 7:22 p.m. Then you get the flower moon. That is in May. Of course, May is always thought of as the month of flowers, beautiful springtime weather, getting closer and closer to summer. It's full illumination about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So shortly thereafter, 6-7 hours later, you should still have about 99.5% brilliance. So it'll be fantastic. Have you noticed so far that we have not experienced any supermoons? We'll get to a few of those, but not in June. 2:44 in the morning. If you're up late, we've got the full strawberry moon coming in, and that is usually the time that strawberries are harvested, so that's why you get the name strawberry moon. Then we get to the buck moon in July. It seems kind of unusual since hunting season is in the fall, but deer start to put on antlers right around this time of the year. So in July, the full moon is at 3:37 in the afternoon. Again, night before or that evening should give us some full illumination of a bright moon, provided that we have clear skies here in East Texas. Sometimes July can be just full of hazy skies, maybe some clouds after a thunderstorm, but usually a pretty good view of the buck moon. Sturgeon moon, well, there it is. Sturgeon, that's a fish. I think that name comes from a time that sturgeon are on the move up in Canada, and so that name is associated with the full sturgeon moon. It will be full on August 9th, 2:55 in the morning, so you have to be up late, see the full sturgeon moon, but certainly a possibility. All right, and then we get into September. September, a time we start harvesting crops, and so we have what is called the harvest moon. This again occurs in the afternoon. Full illumination Sunday, September 7th, 1:09 p.m. So night before, night after. Now we'll see the full illumination. Okay, finally, we get into Monday, October 6th. We not only have a full moon, we have a super moon, right? And that is also referred to as the hunter's moon, and that occurs at 10:48 in the evening, so you don't have to stay up too late to see that. But the full hunter's moon, and it is a super moon. And then the next month, right after that, the beaver moon is also going to be full at 7:19 a.m. So about 2 hours before the sun rises, you ought to be able to see the full moon as it is setting and looking brilliant out there. And that is also a super moon. And then we get to the cold moon. So we have back-to-back-to-back supermoons, kind of like we did in 2024. We're going to repeat that again in 2025. This full moon occurs on Thursday, December 4th, 5:14 p.m. This will be right about the time of our earliest sunsets that we see here in East Texas. Right about 5:15, 5:16 is the earliest sunset. So we'll be able to see this in its full glory, full illumination, super moon, super sized for sure across parts of East Texas. All right, let's discuss more when we are talking about meteor showers that are coming up in the year 2025. And of course, we always have the aquarids right around the early parts of May. 50 meteors an hour before sunrise. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? And it's not. And the Taurid meteor shower in November is typically a meteor shower that only produces about 7 to 8 meteors an hour. But 2025 is known as a swarm year. So there could be many more meteors illuminating, or what looks like emanating from the constellation Taurus. So look in that direction, find the constellation Taurus, and you ought to be able to find perhaps a swarm of meteors coming out there on November 3rd. Then the Gemini meteor shower, this is typically one of the best ones of the year. We head into winter time. The air is usually a little clearer, less humidity. The sky and it gets a little darker sooner, and so you have a lot of night hours to be able to see it. Well, the Gemini peaks on December 14th with as many as 150 meteors an hour. So that is a really active meteor shower. Then we go to November. All right, November 25th, 7:52 in the evening, Mercury and Venus visible on the eastern horizon about an hour before sunrise. Again, not to scale. These will be much smaller, but the two brightest objects in the eastern sky right before sunrise. So the one closest to the horizon in the eastern sky will be Venus, just slightly to its let's say, upper left will be Mercury. So a very great view of those two planets prior to 8 p.m. All right, let's talk about the supermoon in November. The supermoon in November is going to be the biggest supermoon of the year. It's going to appear 7.9% larger and 16% brighter. Of course, when we talk about the moon size doesn't change, the moon's always a consistent size, but because it is closer to the Earth at that time, the appearance to our eyes is that it is about 8% larger and 16% brighter. So if we have clear skies for that supermoon in November, it ought to be a brilliant display for us here in East Texas. Let's hope for that. Okay, let's talk about the Northern Lights. We had an opportunity to see the Northern Lights in 2024, and that is because we've had a lot of solar sunspot activity. and a lot of solar activity in general from the sun. Well, guess what? This is forecast to last into the summertime. So there will be a few more opportunities to see the northern lights if we can get the conditions just right. If we can get a really strong solar flare and those northern lights, maybe, just maybe, like they did in 2024, could reach all the way into East Texas. In fact, in this photo here, deep East Texas. Bruce Kimball showing us that photo from Nacogdoches. All right, so to get more details on what it's going to look like here in East Texas, Sarah Blue has more.
Well, we are all looking forward to the celestial event of January, the Planetary Parade, which is coming through, and we'll see it all month. I'm joined by Bo Hartwig, director of the TJC Earth and Space Science Center. Bo, thank you so much for joining us. So first off, can you just explain what we can expect with this Planetary Parade, so to speak?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And this month has been a kind of a great month for sky watchers. All throughout the month, people have been able to see four different planets. That's Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn with their own unaided eye. So you don't need a telescope or anything to see those planets. And then those with telescopes have also been able to see Uranus and Neptune as well.
So how does alignment like this happen, and how common is something like this?
Right. So this is something that happens. It's doesn't happen every year, but it does happen on a pretty regular occurrence. And the reason that it happens and why they appear to be marching along in a parade is because all of the planets travel along a plane, kind of almost a flat plane of our solar system. And from our position in the solar system, it looks like they move across the sky in what's called the ecliptic plane. And so they're not necessarily all lined up in a single straight line, but they appear across the sky to be in a line in the sky.
And so we're having between 4 to 6 planets, depending on what your ability to reach a telescope or binoculars are. Do we usually see something that has this many planets that are visible in the night sky?
Right. And so this is not something that is that rare, but sometimes it only happens maybe once a year or maybe once every other year. So this is a great time for sky viewers, especially if you've got some nice clear nights to get outside and see it. And the reason why we call it a parade is because the planets are, we call them wanderers. The Greek word for planet actually means wanderer. So when ancient astronomers were looking up in the sky, they noticed the stars all stayed in the same spot in the sky, but there were these objects that were different, that they kind of moved and they were in a different spot each night. Those are the planets. And so if you get out each night, the planets are going to be in a slightly different spot in the sky than they were before. And this leads to some interesting effects. Earlier this week on Monday, people got to see the moon pass in front of Mars. And then tomorrow, January 17th and 18th, you'll see Saturn and Venus. They'll be in what's called conjunction, that they'll be just about a finger's length apart from each other. And so that makes kind of a really neat viewing opportunity for people.
Well, I hope our viewers are able to get out and see it. I myself saw the one that happened on Monday. Such a cool thing. So for our first-time sky watchers out there, you have any tips on how to best see all of the cool things in the night sky this month?
Right, absolutely. So to be able to see all the planets, really what you're going to need is a good view kind of to the south. That's where you're mostly going to be able to see these planets. And so if you can pay attention to where the sun is setting and where the moon is rising, that's going to also help give you an idea of the direction. So the sun is going to set in the western sky, and towards the west is where you will see two bright objects. That will be Venus and Saturn. And then to the east, where the kind of the moon has been rising from, you'll be able to see Mars. And then if you look straight up above head towards the southern sky, you'll see another really bright object, and that's going to be Jupiter. And then for people who are curious if the bright object that they're seeing is a star or a planet, I tell them, think back to their early childhood days when they were taught the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Believe it or not, we were teaching you some science in that song, because the stars will appear to twinkle, but planets, since they're much closer to us, they don't have that twinkling effect. And so if you see something that looks like a really bright star, but it's not twinkling like the other stars, chances are you are actually looking at a planet.
That is so cool. And hey, I love that we're learning a little bit of science even from childhood.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any distinguishing marks that we should be looking for? For example, I've always heard that Mars is red and Uranus and Neptune are blue. Should we be
Right.
looking for something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mars is going to be the reddish one. It is a kind of a red planet. It's actually because of its surface. It's almost like a rusty surface. So you're going to have kind of an orangish reddish tint to it. Venus is going to be the brightest object in the sky aside from the moon. And so once you see the one that's the brightest, you're going to be looking at Venus. And then Saturn is going to be the one that's close to that one. And then right above head, you'll see another bright object. Then that one will be Jupiter.
Oh, well, so cool. And how long does this celestial event take place?
Right. So this is an event that's been occurring all month long. And as we kind of move into February, you'll still be able to see all of these planets. It's just that Saturn and Venus will be setting earlier. And, as we're moving into spring, sunset is happening a little bit later each day. And so that means you may not be able to see Saturn and Venus for as long in the evenings as you are right now. So anybody who's interested, we recommend it kind of now is the best time, and get out over the next couple weeks, see how they're changing and kind of track their positions, and really just kind of enjoy this parade of planets.
Oh, I certainly hope our viewers can get out there and see it. Now, I do have to ask you, because I've been seeing this January 25th number floating around on the internet saying that that is the peak of the planet parade. Can you shed
Right.
some light on that?
Yes, and we've seen some of those postings on social media, and and we've even received inquiries about that here at the Science Centers. People curious about this January 25th date, and that is a little bit of a kind of a misnomer or misinformation, if you will. That there is no one specific date. Sometimes people are thinking that January 25th, the planets are all going to be in a singular kind of line, like from the sun, it's just one straight line type of thing. And that's really not what's happening. It's just over kind of the course of the month is that we're able to see all of these planets that from our perspective appear to be traveling across a line in the sky. If you drew an imaginary line from the east to the west, kind of across the sky, that's called the ecliptic plane, and that's kind of the general line that the planets appear to move across. So from our perspective, they do appear to be in a line. But this kind of singular alignment that might be happening on January 25th is a little bit of a misnomer, if you will. So we're encouraging people just any night over the next couple weeks, get outside, enjoy the sky, and watch the planetary parade unfold.
And if our viewers do happen to miss this one, when is the next planet parade that they might be able to see here in East Texas?
Well, and so this is something I'm not sure on the exact when we're going to see all as many planets at the same time. But if they're not able to see all four of the planets tonight, Jupiter and Mars are still going to be visible in the sky for a good long while, for kind of into February as well. So if you miss seeing all of these planets together, don't worry. There's still plenty of time to get out and enjoy the sky and see all the other planetary motion and all the other great effects. I will also say that the kind of the next big celestial event that we're looking forward to is on March 13th, and that's another alignment, if you will, but that's going to be a total lunar eclipse. That's when the Earth will cast its shadow on the moon. So it's kind of the inverse of what we saw last April with the total solar eclipse, where the moon was casting a shadow on Earth. On March 13th into the 14th, the Earth is going to cast a shadow on the moon and will kind of turn that reddish color. So that's another type of alignment that we hope people will get out and look forward to.
Oh, it sounds like the sky is just lighting up over the next several months, but I certainly hope our viewers can get outside and see the planet parade this January. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your knowledge with the viewers, and hope y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Bo, over at the Tyler Junior College Earth and Space Science Center with that information about the celestial events. Of course, as we go through 2025, we'll be updating these events, talking more about those in detail. And of course, having the forecast, that's all important because we want clear skies to be able to see planetary alignments, to be able to see full moons, the blood moon coming up in March. A lot of exciting things here. And of course, we'll have that forecast for you and updates here at CBS 19 Plus. I'm CBS 19 Chief Meteorologist Brett Anthony. Have a great evening.